So he was like, don't you think maybe like train him twice a week? And I'm like, I can't do that. Like I can't recover from that. He's like, well, how do you know? Like, and I was like, well, I'm sore for a week after I train legs. He goes, yeah, because you only train them once a week. If you train them twice a week, there's this thing called the repeated bout effect. And I just remember being like so, stuck on that. And so anyway, I started training him twice a week. I bumped my volume up. And after about 6 months, like he was right. Like at first I was really sore all the time. And then after like a few weeks, I stopped, getting so sore. I'd only be sore for a few days. And one, I noticed myself getting way stronger, like way stronger. And then I just slowly over time, after 6 months, a year, I started seeing improvements. And I think the hard thing about bodybuilding, especially if you're drug free, is when you're in the off season, you're carrying a little bit more body fat. It's really hard to see development improvements. Like it's almost like you can't see anything. You just have to trust it's there. And then when you diet down, then you can see it. And that's why you have people who never really improve because they don't want to let go of that really lean physique because they don't want to not be able to see, the improvement. But the downside is like they never improved it. So, I just kind of had to trust, say trust the process, right? And I kind of I never said this out loud, but I made this commitment to myself. I remember being 4 or 5 years in and going, because people on the forums were like, oh, your legs are trash. You got chicken legs. You don't have the genetics. You should just quit. And I remember thinking, well, maybe, but, I am going to give this 10 years of hard work. And if they still suck after 10 years, then I'll let myself quit. And funny enough, they didn't suck after 10 years, and I got some good advice, from the first show I ever did, the 2001 Mid-America Muscle Classic. I'll never forget that. I did it as a teenager, and the world natural bodybuilding champ at the time, Dave Gooden, who's actually the most successful natural bodybuilder in history, I believe. Maybe not anymore, probably Brian Whitaker. You can make an argument for him. But Dave was the guest poser and a really nice guy. I actually still talk to Dave to this day. Great guy. And I remember being this 19-year-old kid who knew absolutely nothing. And I'm like, Dave had a seminar between pre-judging and finals. And I'm like, how do I grow my legs? How do I grow my legs? Because Dave had these awesome set of quads. And he was like, and he was this real hardcore gym bro. But he's like, if you're going to stay drug free and you want to grow your legs, you better teach yourself how to tolerate some pain. And it's kind of gym bro, but it is pretty true. I mean, whenever I take people who have a lot of people think they train close to failure, but then when I actually get them in the gym and when they do this in research studies, they find out people underestimate their proximity to failure by about 5 reps. So they'll have them, doing a set and they'll ask them, hey, how many do you think you had left on that set? And let's say they got 8 reps and they say I had 2 reps left. When they yell at them and scream at them and push them to absolute failure, they end up getting 15 reps. So most people are really, really poor estimators of their proximity to failure unless they have spent time training to failure. So this new research that came out that's kind of well, you don't need to train to failure. You just got to get close. That is true. I don't think you need to train to failure. I think you need to just get within a rep or two, pretty close. The problem is most people don't know what that feels like because I can tell you probably the craziest sets I've ever done. I did a set of 530 on squat for 10 reps. And I couldn't even, I had to have somebody run over and help me rack the bar because I couldn't lock out my lumbar enough to get it over on the right side because it sits a little bit lower on that side. I couldn't get it re-racked. And then once I got it up, I literally laid down in the squat rack and I didn't move for 15 minutes. My heart rate was 195 beats per minute. I couldn't fucking move, So you're telling people who are oh, training shy, 1 or 2 reps shy of failure, that's easy. So I couldn't move for 15 minutes. You're telling me if I stop one rep shy, that's easy. Like that is not easy. And people will see my training videos. Like I posted one the other day and I said, this is like an RPE 6. And somebody had said, oh no, that's close to RPE 9. I'm like, yeah, you just never trained hard because it feels hard to you or it looks slow to you. So you think RPE 9 when the reality is you don't really know how hard you could push it unless you really pushed it. So all that to say, like the good thing that I took away from that was learning to push myself because, and it probably wasn't the healthiest psychological thing at the time, but like I would have those, statements from people on the forums, like in my mind, like as I was training, like I'll show these fuckers, and, but it taught me how to train hard.